I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up.
Welcome, everyone, to the Will Carr Speaks podcast. In this episode, I have a very special guest. And for all of you that live here in Colorado, this is extraordinarily relevant to you. But I would even argue if you live outside the state of Colorado, this governor's race here in Colorado is already a very interesting one. And I think it's going to only get more interesting as we go along. Not only are there so many accusations and claims and associations and you name it that are going on in the Colorado governor's race between several of the different candidates, but there's so much going on in the world right now. And Colorado seems to be this place of like the center. Colorado is at the center of these issues in the world that are really coming to light and can have drastic impacts on your quality of life and the way that the world is going to be moving forward. So with that in mind, I am extremely excited to sit down on this podcast with Republican governor candidate Scott Bottoms, and we dive into just some really incredible conversations. This was a fun one, to say the least. I'm still feeling kind of jacked from this as I make this interview. So you guys enjoy the show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm excited you're here. Welcome, everyone, to the Will Carr Speaks podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to sit down with Republican governor candidate Scott Bottoms here in Colorado. I'm excited to dive in with you, Scott, on some things political, some things life, and just like get to know you a little bit better. So with that in mind, excited to have you here, and thanks for joining me on my show.
Yeah, my privilege. I love these things. This is where you get to really know people, rather than, the 10-minute speeches that you give. So, yeah, ask anything. Nothing's off limits unless I say it's off limits.
Okay, sweet. Open board. I love that, man. Well, let's first just dive in. I'm interested. What really gave you the passion? Obviously, you're a member of the House of Representatives here in Colorado right now. What really gave you the passion, the desire to want to run for governor?
Well, so I've been a pastor of a church since I was 20. And so that really is me. That's my foundation. The Bible, truth, all of these kind of things are just part of the conversation or part of the lifestyle when you're really trying to be a good pastor. And so in serving in the House, I did jump in to run for the House of Representatives, and I didn't expect to do that. That wasn't in my wheelhouse. And got some really good push from some people. And then really felt like God was saying, do this, so I jump into this, right?
Yeah.
Well, then I'm in the House for 4 years now, and every time I turn around, there's more laws being broken by the state representatives and the Senate, passing bills that are not constitutional, passing bills that fly directly in the face of our state and federal constitution, and then put people at risk, hurt people, and then protecting. I tried to run many bills about this, but protecting pedophiles, protecting human trafficking, putting criminals back out on the streets. These are things that are very dangerous for the people of Colorado, and it makes the people of Colorado, the citizens, at risk. It puts them in danger. And then just seeing all of the corruption and the fraud, the waste, the abuse, all of the things, money going into people's pockets, not supposed to be, that just kept stacking higher and higher and higher. And I'm complaining about this stuff. I'm complaining to the people in my area, my circles, and those kind of things. And then just really began to process. I became a representative to fight some of this stuff, all this stuff. How much more powerful could I be as a governor to be able to attack the corruption and the fraud and the human trafficking and the pedophilia and all that stuff from the governor's office? And so I just decided this is what I'm going to do. Rather than sit and talk about it and complain, because I've told people for decades, don't complain if you're not going to get involved. So taking it to the higher level and looking forward to be the governor in the process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, clearly we see things in the government, in the Colorado government right now with, they almost passed a law to allow prostitution in our state, right? And I live in Jefferson County, Colorado, where we have dozens, it seems, of where we've had situations of teachers and faculty and staff get in trouble, and for, I say in trouble, because all they really get is a slap on the wrist. And so I think it seems somewhat obvious that, no, you're good. I think it seems somewhat obvious that we have things in our government where pedophiles and people that are acting inappropriately are being protected. But I had someone ask me the other day, like, show me the proof. Like, where do we see things like, all I could point to was those two examples that I just gave. You know, the stuff I've seen in schools in Jefferson County and the fact that they about passed the law to allow prostitution. What are some actual, like, can you give me some examples of how we really know that these things are going on?
Well, I can look at it from the legislative side first, and then there's the other side that I'm very involved in. From the legislative side, I've tried to run bills. I did run the bills, and they got voted down unanimously by Democrats to say that that there can be no human trafficking of minors across state lines. Now, why would they vote unanimously against that?
Makes no sense.
So right now, pedophiles get off on probation almost 90% of the time. I ran a bill this last spring that was going to make the sentencing for pedophilia life in prison.
As it should be.
They voted unanimously against it. 3 years in a row, we had some representatives that, and I helped them on that, and plus it came to my committee, that said that pedophiles need to serve 4 years, mandatory. 4. The Democrats voted it down unanimously. Why?
Yeah.
And then I asked the police and the sheriffs, about a dozen of them that came through, what is the youngest that they've caught somebody raping a child? I mean, the child. And every single one of them said the same age, 2 years old.
Wow.
So you got and the demographic is white males between 40 and 45 years old. So I thought for sure the Black Caucus would get on board with this. That's a very up in your face example of racism, right? It's over 70% of the children being raped are minority kids.
Wow.
Okay, voted unanimously against it. The Black Caucus was the one going at everybody the strongest that this was not okay, and that we don't need to pass this bill. And so now pedophiles still getting off on probation. These are the kind of things when you vote, and I'll name us some others. I try to get parental consent for any kind of medical procedure because we're seeing where the schools are actually grooming kids into the hospitals. DOJ is investigating the Children's Hospital in Aurora for these types of things. And they're doing these procedures on kids as young as 12 years old without parental knowledge, not consent. Colorado is not
Parents
a consent.
don't even know.
Don't even know. We're not a consent state nor a knowledge state. A 13-year-old girl can have an abortion without parents knowing about it. So I'm running these bills, all kinds of bills to stop all of this stuff. The Democrats are voting unanimously against it. Boys and girls sports.
Yeah.
I ran that bill unanimously against it. No transgender surgery for minors, unanimously against it. Those are all pedophilic circular issues. And they're voting no. Let's protect pedophiles. Let's protect human trafficking. And when people say, oh, you're making this up, the bills are on record. You can go look at them and look at who voted no. And so that's the legislative side. And my issue with that is how many times can they vote no before you start to go, maybe they're involved.
Yeah.
Maybe the reason they're protecting is because they are involved. Now, the other side is we had some whistleblowers come to us 3 years ago and told me about some human trafficking, some pedophilia in the House and the Senate. So I began to work with the FBI in a different state. Since then, they've turned it over to the FBI here in Colorado. I've been working with them for quite a while. And I don't know where that investigation is at. After I gave them all the information, we were texting back and forth. They were asking me questions. What about this? What about this? And so I asked them, so where is that investigation? Since I gave them all the information, I thought maybe they could say, well, we're doing good. I don't know anything. Yeah. And they say that that this is an ongoing investigation. They can't give me information. So I'm like, all right. But I do have two other companies now. In fact, I was talking to one of them this morning that they are going to help me with this investigation, and we're going to really be able to get some very hard facts about this.
Mm-hmm.
We're still going to turn it over to the FBI. I've told the FBI that. They know we're working with them, but they also know I'm working with these private groups. And when these private groups get to the point where they have enough information and we're turning it over to the FBI, if the FBI is still slow walking it, which that's kind of what bureaucracies do, right?
Right.
Then we'll start releasing some of this to the public with, but we have to have, very tangible things, locations and photographs and that kind of stuff. And this is what these other two groups are doing for me.
Yeah. I'm interested to ask you because I would make the claim that a lot of the problems that we have in government right now are because of the bureaucracies.
Oh, it is.
It's because of people that aren't voted in by anyone. And that would assume even if they did get voted in by someone that that was all legitimate as well.
Right.
But the bureaucracy, for sure, they are appointed by someone, and then they have all this power.
Yes.
If you become governor, how can we clean up the bureaucracy here in Colorado?
Well, there's a few things with this. So one of the things over the last 3 years, what we've been seeing happening from the legislature is the governor's office is being given more and more power. And I've come down to the well in the House and say 50 times that I want to take away the powers of the governor. And alluding to that, I can't say, so if I come down as a representative and I'm running for governor, and they all know I'm running for governor,
Yeah.
I can't say when I'm governor.
Yeah.
Because that's against the rules, right?
Okay.
So I'll say things like, well, in a couple years, when there's a new governor,
Okay.
and then I give them a cheesy smile to let them know, talking about me, that we need to take more and more powers away from the governor, not give it to them. And I'll do that actively as a governor, is take those powers away. Well, one of the things that we've added powers to is the ability to appoint to all kinds of agencies and departments across the state.
Yeah.
More appointment power rather than voting in power. I mean, being a voted in position or having the groups themselves put people on those boards instead of directly from the governor's office. I don't think it should come from the governor's office. Now, the first year that I'm governor, those rules will still apply, and I'm gonna move people around, get rid of a lot of people. I've been working with Vice President Vance's fraud team, and they gave me kind of a formula, and I won't make that public what it is because until I use it, I want it to be quiet.
Yep.
But a formula of how to move people out of the agencies, departments, who needs to go, who needs to stay, that kind of thing. One of the more common sense ways to approach that is, I just talked to the Cattlemen's Association this morning, and if they're pro-cattle, then they should be on some of those boards. If they're anti-cattle, like let's introduce wolves, and I'm a vegan that hates meat, then maybe they shouldn't be on those boards. Right. And so that's a simple process, but we'll broaden it out quite a bit, and we'll remove a lot of those people. And here's the reason, like you're saying, the bureaucrats run state and federal, by the way.
Yeah.
The bureaucrats, that's what, when President Trump says things like, I'm going to drain the swamp, he's not talking about elected officials primarily. He's talking about bureaucrats that have been there 25 years.
Definitely.
And they're running the show, and all they do is say, well, we'll wait for 4 years until you're gone.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to clean house with that and get rid of a lot of these people. I mean, very much get rid of a lot of people. And I can already see the news headlines, Governor Bottoms is removing so many people, firing so many people, taking people out of their jobs, making people homeless or whatever,
Right.
however they want to spin that. But I think the important words to notice when we get to that headline is Governor Bottoms. All right? Governor Bottoms is going to be in charge. And I'm going to take care of a lot of stuff that should have been taken care of many different times over years. And then I want to put term limits to bureaucracies. We already have it for representatives, senators, and the governor's office. We need to have term limits for bureaucratic positions too. Like you can only serve in this agency for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then you're done. And then you go to private work and you work like everybody else does. And so those are the things that we'll tackle pretty fast as I jump into office.
And I would say, like with the bureaucracy side, like having term limits on the bureaucracy side, in theory that sounds good, but if the house isn't cleaned up at the same time, they're just replacing one talking head with another
Sure.
talking head, another head of the same snake per se, right? But yeah, let's dive into the fraud some, because I want to talk about that, and you know, obviously we're going to be at the Freedom Fest this weekend. Nick Shirley's going to be there, who's obviously you know, really went viral for all of his stuff, especially up in Minnesota and
Yeah.
and various things that he's done, and the stuff he's done out in California now. Because I had someone ask me the other day a similar question that I said earlier. They're like, "Well, show me where the fraud is," and I'm like, have you not like looked at some of this?
Yeah.
And a lot, and I think with some of the fraud, a lot of it is implied. Like we can't see for 100% because, for example, the NGOs, like once the money goes to, you know, House Rep XYZ's NGO, we don't know how much of that they're paying back to themselves, or like some of that is somewhat hidden behind the veil, right?
Yeah.
But I think with all that in mind, kind of dive in and share with me where you see the fraud and the stuff that's most visible.
Yeah.
Like, because if someone asks, show me the fraud, prove to me the fraud, what's the best place to start?
Yeah, I would answer that question with, do you really think there's no fraud?
Yeah.
Does anybody in this state think there's no fraud? There's no corruption? We know it's everywhere. I'll give you a little starting example. I don't think this is where the big levels are, but the Denver Post did an article 2 years ago about Democrat Representative Lorena Garcia. And she had an NGO that was getting a few $1,000s a year. She becomes a state representative. All of a sudden, the state gives her $1 million. You're like, what? When I became a representative, nobody gave me $1 million. But it's because of the type of NGO she has and the thing. And the Denver Post showed she was paying all of her family.
Mm-hmm.
The major hundreds of thousands of dollars were going to just her family. Well, that's corruption. That's money laundering is what that is. The state is paying Democrats and their families so that they can get input into their world and their life. Mm-hmm. Those are the kind of things that we've dug into, but we're really digging into. I have a lady that all she does is dig into fraud across the state, and she's found quite a bit of stuff. We've been handing a lot of this over to Vice President Vance's team. One of these things is I called for a special resolution to call for a special auditor into the state of Colorado, an assistant attorney general. I think we were asking from the state of Kansas to come into Colorado and independently investigate, because we need them to investigate the Supreme Court, the district courts, and Attorney General Weiser. And because we have evidence of all of this, that there's lots of fraud there. And Supreme Court Justice Coates, this was about 5 years ago, admitted that he was paying, along with the judicial chief of staff, Macias was paying almost $3 million in hush money. They admitted it to a court in an investigation, and then it went nowhere. And the reason is because Attorney General Weiser was covering it up, brushing it under the rug, along with other Supreme Court and different justices. We had some justices call in when I presented the resolution, and state that they watched this go down when they were justices in different courts, and they named those. And this is all on record. but then all of a sudden the investigation stopped. Well, because it involved the highest investigator in the state that is in charge of all the auditors, investigators, and that's Attorney General Weiser.
Right.
And we have all this documented. We've presented it everywhere. The DOJ has it, all kinds of stuff. The Democrats voted unanimously against me having this special auditor. Now, for the viewers out there that don't know this, one of the major jobs of the legislature is to audit agencies across the state of Colorado.
That makes sense.
That and balance our budget. It's not actually pass laws. We pass laws because we have so much free time and we're broken. But it's to do things like audit the agencies. And so when I called for an audit, which should have been a given, yes, we're going to do this. Why? Because it's what we do. It's our job. They voted unanimously against it. And I was I was attacked at the Channel 9 debate by Kyle Clark, and he said, yeah, but that's only $3 million. It doesn't matter. He shut me up and interrupted me because I was getting too close to big stuff. And he knows it because we had already sent him all of the evidence that's gone to the DOJ. This is not like 10 pages. It's thousands of pages.
Oh, wow.
And he has all the evidence, who's already admitted to what and everything. But his response was, because his question was, well, what proof do you have?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started naming the proof. Yeah, but that's only just for $3 million. Well, first you asked me what proof I have. Don't interrupt me. I do have proof. But here's the other thing.
That's just where you're starting.
That's where I was starting, right?
Yeah.
And then he says, well, it's just $3 million. But the $3 million was admitted by Chief Justice, not Chief Justice, but Supreme Court Justice Coates and Macias, that this was almost $3 million of hush money.
Mm.
What does that mean?
Yeah, it means they're covering something up.
That means there's a whole lot behind them. That if $3 million is just the hush money, how much is the corruption behind them? And we've had this very strongly since I've been in the House. Plus, we've investigated a bunch of other things, and we've been handing that over. Originally, we were handing that over to DOJ at the federal level, and then Trump started Vance's team, and so now I've been working with Vance's team, and we've been going through a lot of this stuff. A few of them we've made public. Some of them we haven't made public yet because we need a little bit more digging. Mm-hmm. But I was sitting at dinner a couple of weeks ago with some of Vance's team, and he said, we're just penciling out what we're seeing, what we're doing, all this. And he said, do you realize that just with what we have here on this paper, and this doesn't include other things that I'm going after, like different agencies like Coverall Colorado and Office of New Americans, and all these things that funnel hundreds of $millions into illegal immigrant programs, plans, healthcare, stuff like that. We ain't even got to that stuff. And just looking at these other things, he said, do you realize that's like $30 billion worth of corruption in the state of Colorado?
Annually, or like?
No, it's over time.
Okay.
Different ones are over different lengths of time. But I would say going back to about 5 or 6 years would be the back end of that.
So you're looking at $5 billion a year, roughly.
At least.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least. Because, again, we haven't even really tapped into some of the other arenas. Yeah. And here's a simple one. Everybody knows this. Nobody in the state of Colorado thinks CDOT is all good. Right? We know there's fraud, waste, and abuse in CDOT. You can drive by and see one guy shoveling and 20 others standing holding a shovel. Well, that to me, there's something wrong there, right?
Yeah.
And I've had CDOT, and just in the last 2 weeks, I've had CDOT employees come to me. We were all over the West Slope last week, city after city after city. And CDOT employees were coming to me regularly and saying, we can point to the fraud and the waste. We know where it is. We know when our team hires 40 people to do this job and 3 of them are actually working or 5 of them are working, that's fraud. That's money laundering to your cousin because he needs a job and you have a $250 million project. Nobody's going to notice your cousin. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, these are the things that we're going to be investigating. Every single agency, every department, every group in the state of Colorado, we're going to audit, we're going to investigate, we're going to do the equivalent of starting a DOJ. Mm-hmm. And it's necessary because before we can get to filling potholes, you got to fix the corruption that's putting the money toward the potholes. If it's going into people's pockets, the potholes are not going to get fixed no matter how much money you give or how you restructure whatever. You got to get rid of people. You got to put some people in jail, and you got to make sure that the money actually gets to where it needs to go. And I'm going to spend probably my first entire year just doing that.
Yeah. And I mean, so right now, what's the Colorado budget? Like $48 billion. I think I saw that number.
$48 billion.
Yeah, $48 billion a year. So.
And it started when Polis became governor. It was 29.
Wow. So what accounts for that $20 billion increase?
That's my point.
Yeah.
That's where your fraud is. That's where your money laundering is. We don't need that type of increase, but we're giving hundreds of millions to illegal immigrant programs. That's the first place to start. These are illegal things being accomplished through our budget. You cannot give those things to those people. And I'll give you just one example, and I can give you 20. But Coverall Coloradans, that was, we started funding that. We had a new funding of that last year. So this was going to be a 2-year funding for 25 and 26. It was going to be $17 million for 2 years. That's $8.5 million a year.
Yeah.
During this session in 26, the Democrats came back and said, we need more money for Coverall Colorado. We're like, did you use your $8.5 million? And they said, yes, we did. And we actually used $104.7 million.
That's a little over budget.
660% over budget.
Yeah.
Who does that in anywhere else except government? And you don't get shut down. You don't go to jail. Different things with that because part of the bill said that you were going to have that this $8.5 million, or 17 over the 2 years, was going to go to illegal immigrant, what they call reproductive health care, which is new terminology for abortions. Okay. Well, you're telling me they had $104.7 million worth of illegal immigrant abortions in 25? No. What they're doing is they're padding other programs. They're sending it over here. People are getting it in their pocket. And I would even suggest, and we've been looking at some of these trails, that this is even going to the Venezuelan cartel in Aurora. And the Democrats are helping prop up the Venezuelan cartel because that's the militia for when somebody like me gets elected governor, they need to burn down Denver. And we've seen this all over, so I'm not making anything up.
Yeah.
What about BLM, Antifa, all those groups that the Summer of Love, when we burn down major cities across the United States, they cannot afford a guy like me to actually take office. And that's what the cartel is locked and loaded, heavily armed, and ready to do is to come after me and the city of Denver, including they'll go out to Boulder a little bit to look good, but Boulder gives them too much money, so they don't want to do too much in Boulder. But we are in a very, very serious states of fraud and waste and abuse. And until we get this cleaned up, you're not going to be able to fix anything. You can't fix Medicaid or housing or stop the crime, or you can't. We're second in crime in the nation. Second. First in car thefts, first in bank robberies. How do people justify this? We're seventh in human trafficking, sixth in pedophilia, but those are raw numbers. In other words, they're computing.
That's just what they know.
That's what they know, and also let's say that's 50 people compared to 50 people in California. If you do it as a percentage basis, we're number one in the United States, because you got places like California that are way bigger than us,
Right?
And we have the numbers that are close to them. And according to our laws that have been passed in the 4 years I've been there, we are the most human trafficking friendly state and the most pedophile friendly state in the United States. When does this stop? When do we say this is enough? We're going to stop grooming our kids. We're going to stop with the boys and girls sports. We're going to stop with all of that stuff. Well, here's the year. This is the year we're going to do it. And we're seeing Democrats, major groups of Democrats, all across the state of Colorado saying, yeah, we're done too.
Yeah.
We can't keep propping up and supporting these kind of things. And so this is the year. This is my year. This is the Republicans' year to win, I believe, all 4 state seats. And if I can get a good Republican attorney general, me and the AG can tear down a lot of this corruption pretty fast.
Yeah.
I mean, very fast.
Which is what we need. Like I tell people all the time, I love Colorado so much. Like I could spend the rest of this podcast just going on about how much I love this state. I live up in the mountains and I enjoy hiking and camping and skiing and doing all the things that paddleboarding, you name it. Like the Colorado lifestyle is why I'm here, and it's something I'm passionate about. And I grew up in the Midwest on a corn farm, so that's going to church twice a week. So that's my upbringing and where my morals and values and what my priorities and what I care about come from. Yeah. And I want to see Colorado be the greatest state in the country again, because I feel like it is. But and I agree, Coloradans are tired of every year being asked to pay more in taxes. Every year getting new things on the ballot for vote yes for this because it sounds really good on paper, but really we're just going to launder that money somewhere else and just charge you and make your cost of living even more here. Coloradans want to be able to live here and enjoy living here without feeling like they're being constrained all the time. I know you've talked about eliminating things like property taxes and eliminating other types of taxes. Can you kind of dive into what taxes you would plan to eliminate, and if there's and where, other than eliminating fraud, and maybe that's just the answer, but other than that, like how are we going to balance the budget if we're eliminating billions of dollars in tax revenue?
Yeah, let me address what you just said about the ballot too, because this is important this year. We have Prop NN on the ballot, and basically what that does is raise the Tabor cap limit for 5 years. That's billions of dollars, and the bill literally says, and you can look this up and see it. It says that most of it will go to education. What does that mean?
Yeah. Well, and that's also what they said about the marijuana revenue. And
Yes.
it's all going to go to education and our roads. And
Well, at least the marijuana one gave some breakdown of percentages and what that looks like. This one just says mostly. Like, who decides mostly? What is the mostly number?
Arbitrary term, to say the least.
Yes, and we ran amendments to say put a percentage to it, put a number to it. And they wouldn't, because they don't care about education. This is not about education. Neither was the marijuana bill either. It wasn't about education and roads. It was a joke. I get that probably as much as any question right now. What's happening to the marijuana money? We're taking 27% tax on marijuana. Where's the money going?
Yeah.
Well, I can tell you where it's not going. It's not going to education and roads. This is part of the corruption we have to uncover. Okay. Now, going back to Prop NN, just remember NN, no. Just vote no on Prop NN, because it's just going to take more of your taxes. You're not going to get your refunds, and it's still not going to go to education. Mm-hmm. It's still definitely not going to go to teachers. It never goes to teachers and or students. So the bigger picture of property tax, I want to eventually do away with property tax totally. I think property tax and income tax are unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. I don't think it is legal for your government to take your money, to tax your money that you're making. Okay, and I definitely don't believe that they have the right to tax your house that you bought and continue to make you pay taxes on that the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. It's like buying a big screen TV and every year you have to pay another tax on it. Yeah. Well, you already own that TV. It's yours. And this is how a lot of older people are driven out of their homes, is maybe they pay their home off, and then all of a sudden their my taxes and my property taxes in the last 5 years is more than doubled. Mm-hmm. It's pushing almost to triple. Well, what happens on this fixed income that you've barely been squeaking by with the mortgage? You've paid the mortgage off, and now you're paying the property taxes, and all of a sudden it doubles, maybe triples. Well, they can't afford it. They have to move out of their home. But that's okay for the government, because that's what they want. Governor Polis has said, all 4 years that I've been in the House in his State of the State address, he says that we need to not own private property, but let the state own it. The state will be good to us. Same things like Marx and Lenin and Gorbachev and those guys said, we'll be good to you. Let us own everything. Uh-huh. And this is where Polis has been for quite a while now. So he's okay with property taxes driving people out of their homes. I don't think it's legal. I don't think it's right or ethical or constitutional to continue to make people pay for the state, who had nothing to do with their home, the privilege of living in their home, paying them a huge monthly payment. So I will work hard to get rid of property tax altogether and to get rid of income tax altogether. Now, that is not an undoable thing. You have to redo the tax code. You have to redo the tax structure. But it's not doable. Florida is doing a version of this for property tax right now.
Yep.
Where they're having a tier system. We may need a tier system on property tax for a while, because property tax goes to local municipalities, income tax goes to the state. So we'll have to make sure that we're supporting fire, police, and schools and things like that. Now, my education plan completely redesigns education in the state of Colorado, which will help this, which will help the local municipality issue. But really, we have to restructure taxes. Now, you said the problem may be fixed just by the corruption. It'll greatly be fixed by that. If we can knock off $30 billion, we can stop $30 billion of corruption, fraud, waste, and abuse. We can get our budget back under $30 billion. That leaves a lot of taxpayer dollars that are already structured to be able to use other places, although I'd like to cut those. And if we do away with income tax, you do cut those. And then we just restructure the tax code so that we make sure that our local municipalities, and here's the reality. Most of the stuff that the state is spending money on right now is not the charter of the state. It's not how our state was designed. We're supposed to provide basic infrastructure, protection for the citizens. Well, we're not doing that. We're attacking police and ICE constantly. Yep. We're making sanctuary cities and states, which are not constitutional. I'll do away with those day one. One executive order, we're done with that stupidity. But the big thing here is we're putting the money where it needs to go, which is actually what the state is supposed to be doing. The local municipalities, protection, things like our police and then our National Guard, those are state-controlled things. And when we cut that corruption, we will have literally billions of dollars, potentially 25 to 30 billions of dollars left to provide all of this stuff.
Yeah.
We don't need a third of that to provide all of this for the state at a higher level than it's being provided now. But you got to cut all your silly programs where we are funding abortion for the entire world right now. It used to just be the United States, but the Coverall Colorado bill says that any illegal immigrant abortion should be paid for, will be paid for by the state. That means we're not just funding, we are a destination state for abortion for the entire United States. We're going to be funding it for the world. Same with transgender surgeries. And none of these programs are allowed to be touched, right? We can't touch transgender surgeries when we're talking about the budget. Those are the sacred cows. We can't touch illegal immigrant programs to the hundreds of millions. Those are sacred cows. Get rid of a lot of those things, get rid of a lot of those agencies like the Office of New Americans and 4 others that are very anti-constitutional. We'll have the money. Then you restructure the tax code, we're good. Mm-hmm. We can do this very easily, and you pay no property taxes. So the elder population can live in their homes. And here's the biggest one. You couple that with we're going to deregulate everything in the state. We're the 6th most regulated state in the United States. We deregulate, now people can actually buy homes again, which we're not doing.
Yeah, I think I saw some number the other day, like $130,000 worth of every new home built is regulations or something like that. And it just goes to show that, I mean, of course you have to have there's got to be some barometer for building things properly, right? Yes. But I also think that comes down to ultimately, if you're going to build a house that is a straw house and going to fall down in a few years, you're not going to be in business very long.
Right.
Like, and so if we can get to a point where we can get those costs down and allow the competitive nature of markets to do what they're supposed to do, people are going to ultimately have better things built, because if business A is building something and business B is building it better, people are going to ultimately go and buy from business B.
Yeah, the market corrects itself.
Yeah.
That's what a market is. That's what the free market, what capitalism is it corrects itself. The extra money that's added to per house is not quite as high as you're saying, but it is about 50 to 60,000 per home. Yeah. Now, if you're building a $2 million home, who cares?
Right.
But when you're trying to build a $200,000 starter home, that $50,000 is a lot. Now you're looking at a whole nother price bracket.
Totally.
Okay, so here's part of the things. I know that subconsciously, I guess consciously, we think that when the state is trying to regulate some of these things, they're doing it for our benefit.
Yeah.
But they're not. We already have building codes. We have the highest building codes in the world. We are very structured in how we build houses, and we don't build junk. We build good homes. Now, here's one of the regulations. By 2030, the Democrats are demanding, they already passed it into law, demanding that all homes be only electric, no gas. Well, that's a stupid regulation that is a Marxist concept that says you don't get to choose what you want in your home. Plus, electricity is much higher to operate once you've bought that home. It's much higher to build only that when you're building the home. And on top of that, during a blizzard, when the electricity goes down, people are going to die.
Yeah.
Not just be really cold, they're going to die. And we've got access to natural gas, and we have another company. Right now we have one line coming through Colorado, and it's a one-directional line only into Colorado because we don't produce net right now. We should be. I mean, we do a little bit up in the northwest Colorado, but Tallgrass is a company that's putting a line in right now that is going to come from the Colorado, very northeastern Colorado, Nebraska area, come all the way down, come into Weld County, come into right south of the airport in Colorado Springs, and then down into Fowler. Well, it's going to be a two-way line. And that way, when we actually start producing gas again, which we will do when I'm governor, we can sell it too. We can supply all of our state and sell it to other states. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of natural gas in the state of Colorado, but we've got a moratorium on getting to it. We've got a moratorium on drilling for oil. We've got a moratorium on coal power plants. We've destroyed all of them but one. These things drive up housing cost, every one of these things. And the red tape, like you're saying, that $50,000, That drives up housing costs. And most of this has nothing to do with safety of individuals. It has to do with people wanting to pocket things and being used by different industries to set it up. Why? Who do you think is behind let's only have electric houses?
Yeah.
Right? And not only that, but part of the legislation is that you have to put in an electric car charging port in every single house. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And not everybody's going to have electric cars. In fact, a small percentage of people have electric cars. But this is their ruling because why? The PUCs, the utility commissions, make money on all this stuff. Every single penny of this, they get cuts off of this. And that's why they're doing that. Here's something that most people don't know that happened. About 10 years ago, the state of Colorado, all the builders stopped building condos and townhomes. The state of Colorado did not build one townhome or condo in 8 years.
Why?
Because the legislature made it so easy to sue these people for those specific areas of building. There's lots of areas of building that they all just said, we're not doing it. And in fact, the Common Sense Institute did a great study on this, why this happened, why all of these townhomes and condos were just off the market. About 2 years ago, they started building them again. Well, everybody cries, especially on the Democrat side. Everybody cries, well, we need affordable housing. Okay, well, if you go in the scale, you got mobile homes, then modular homes, then you're all in the same arena is condos and the townhomes, and then a starter home is like right above that. Okay, well, they put so much regulation and red tape and everything, we can't afford to build the actual starter homes. They say affordable housing, but affordable right now means about $450,000 and up.
Yeah.
That's not a starter home. Okay, and then we had no condos and townhomes in the process. Well, you just took out a major chunk of affordable housing that people step into different things at different level. And now you got to rent until you can afford a $450,000 home. There's no way that most people are ever going to be able to make that jump. You got to make the jump into the small houses, into the starter homes. You live there 4 or 5 years, now you have collateral. You have a down payment and you can move up. But the Democrats intentionally took away a major chunk right at the beginning to make it impossible. Nobody ever talks about that. But there's information out there about this and how it was very intentional by the Democrat Party. Well, we're building townhomes and condos again, and I'm going to deregulate everything. It is not a safety issue and is not a better built house. It is just control, Marxist control. We're going to take all that regulation away, and people are going to actually be able to buy a starter home again.
Yeah, well, and I think a main difference to highlight there is when it comes to something like affordable housing, there's a big difference between actually putting policy in place that's going to allow the free market to thrive and for housing and cost of living in general to become more affordable versus affordable housing. We're just going to give money away, give, and give money here, like we have an infinite pocketbook,
Right?
Which is the problem we're experiencing right now.
And when you do that, who do you give the money to? Nobody ever asks the question. We're going to have affordable housing. We're going to have rent control. Who gets that? Well, if you know somebody that knows somebody, you can get that. But if you don't, you're still out in the cold. That's coming back to where it's fraud, waste, and abuse. As people pocketing money, elected officials, all kinds of people that are pocketing money so they can get their cousin into that rent cap space, and the space right next door is twice as much rent. Well, here's part of the problem. Anytime you put caps on things, housing cost, rent, any of that kind of stuff, somebody else is paying for it.
Yeah.
So you have a 1,000 space apartments or 1,000 homes being built, and you say we're going to rent cap 75 of those or 100 of those. Okay, what about the other 900? Okay, they're paying more because the builder is losing money to do that.
Yeah.
They're asking the builder to give caps that are lower than their actual cost of that housing. And so then you're paying more. If you're not the special cousin, you're paying more just because of the caps. They're supposed to save everybody money. They don't. They hurt everybody in the process.
Yeah. Well, I want to I want to dive into a little bit about Tina Peters. She's going to also be at the Freedom Fest. I'm excited to hear her speak. I think this will be her first public speak, other than maybe some interviews and stuff she's done. But this will be interesting to hear her. I'm going to start the question, and then you can kind of go on and share what you'd like to about the subject. But why do you think Polis pardoned her?
Okay. Let me rant a little bit before I get to that.
Okay.
Because it'll make a little more sense.
All right.
First, Friday night, I was at an event with Tina, and she spoke. Okay, so you're wrong about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm often wrong, guys.
Let's write that down somewhere. You were wrong. So
what's wrong?
But here's that was the first time I've seen her since she got out of jail and out of prison, and she was telling some of the stories of her being in prison and stuff. It was making me so mad. I get tired of people saying she was convicted by a jury of her peers. She was not convicted by a jury of her peers. There was a jury there, but she made 41 motions to get evidence included for her side of the defense, and that hack activist judge in Mesa County, which when I'm governor, I will do everything I can to get that guy out, disbar him, get him totally out of anything to do with lawyering or judging. This guy is an activist. And 2 other Democrat judges have said the exact same thing. Well, 41 motions were denied by that judge. She had no defense. So how was she convicted by a jury of her peers if she didn't have a defense? Right? On top of that, that judge goes in there and he tells the jury improper instructions that contributed to Tina getting convicted. Okay. And so finally she's out. You know, even when President Trump and his lawyers come down and review all the evidence, if they would have found all the evidence that made her guilty, according to why would they stick their neck out? Maybe Trump would, because sometimes we don't know exactly what he's doing, why he's doing it.
Right.
But those lawyers wouldn't have. And so we know she wasn't guilty. That's the first thing. For 2 years, Governor Polis has been saying not guilty, not guilty. Right. I mean, she's guilty and we're not letting her out. That's what I mean. I'm the only candidate that has said that she needs to be pardoned completely. So all of a sudden, Polis says, well, I think we should just commute her sentence and let her out. Why not? She's had too strong of a sentencing. Well, he knew that 2 years ago. So what changed? Here's what I think changed. Well, some of this I know, but then I'm going to posit what I think Polis is involved. Okay. There are investigations right now for Griswold and Weiser having to do with sedition, treason.
Yep.
And those are going to be coming out.
Are those through the DOJ or like?
Yes.
Who? Okay.
So the indictments will be coming out. Well, DOJ and FBI.
Okay.
Right? So those will be coming out probably in about a month and a half. The indictments on that. And Polis is actually part of that. One little thing that kind of squeaked out of that whole, they apparently had quite a few meetings where they were talking about how they can overthrow Trump before he gets elected, overthrow the government in the election process, not like the whole government. Because right now the government was working in their favor. They just didn't want Trump in there to mess everything up. Well, one of the things that squeaked out about that was they kept Trump off of the ballot, right? Secretary of State Griswold did, and then she convinced our Colorado Supreme Court to do that. And then they took it to the Supreme Court of the United States. And here's a telltale sign. When the SCOTUS slaps down a state Supreme Court 9-0, you know there's some brokenness, there's some corruption, there's some fraud going on in there somewhere, or that wouldn't happen. SCOTUS doesn't do that. There'll be at least 1 or 2 dissenting SCOTUS votes because there are still very, very liberal people on the SCOTUS. But they slapped our Supreme Court down 9-0. Now, with that, and I've even heard rumor, this totally rumor, that there was some recordings of some of the meetings, at least one recording of one of the meetings where the sedition, the treason and stuff was being discussed and those kind of things. Okay, so Polis is part of that. I think what he did, this is purely speculation on my part, but I think he went to President Trump and said, hey, if you'll keep me out of the indictments, which is very difficult to indict a sitting governor as it is, okay? It's not as difficult for an AG or an SOS. We're seeing this in the state of Minnesota right now.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to indict a sitting governor, even though in Minnesota, he's admitted everything, right? He says, yeah, like, come get me. I got Somalian army here. So,
Right.
but so here's part of the deal with that is I think he said, if I let Peters go, will you keep me out of the sedition charges? Now, we know that Tina Peters, and there's also a couple other people that have a lot of evidence against our state and against the election system, against Secretary of State Griswold. And this includes Polis at some level too. Well, there's 4 other investigations going on right now for election fraud, some of that. Okay, so that's a separate thing as we get closer to the election. But I think that's why Governor Polis let Tina Peters go. And when I'm governor, I'm going to pardon her completely, 100%. Again, I'm the only person saying that. And also on top of that, I'm going to allow her to use state funds to be able to sue the state of Colorado and sue Secretary of State Griswold and sue Attorney General Weiser, sue that judge in Mesa County. And if Polis can be included, and then sue him too. And this will be civil, but that will open up the doors for some other things that will potentially be criminal. Or what happens is the reverse. Some of these indictments come down, and now that the legal side, the criminal side, gives credibility into the civil side. And so either way, she has the right for retribution for being put in prison for 2 years for doing nothing wrong. She was doing her job as a county clerk. And so, yeah.
Why do you think that's a good, why do you think that's a good use of state funds to allow Tina to use state funds?
Because the state is who destroyed her life. The state itself, the Secretary of State, who is a state employee, elected but still a state employee, Attorney General, state employee, they were using state funds to put her in jail. They were using state funds to indict her, to prosecute her. They were using all of these state funds to destroy her life when they knew that she was innocent. They had seen the evidence. This is something else is, so we got a guy named Dallas Schroeder who also back up the files for the Dominion voting machines. When they came after him, he gave them everything. And instead of leaving that for state's evidence or something else, Attorney General Weiser and his office destroyed every one of those files. Well, if you're innocent, why would you destroy the files that prove you're innocent?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and Dallas Schroeder says he does not have any more files. We'll see. When all this blows up, we'll see. But they were using state funds to destroy a woman's life and her family. Why would we not bring state money back into retribution for that? Happens all the time. People sue for unlawful arrest and all kinds of things. And they can use state prosecutors to do it.
Okay.
And we will use the state attorney general's office, assuming that we have a Republican attorney general, to bring truth to light here and to bring it back into the arena of light and right.
That makes more sense. I think so. What you're saying is more along the lines of like how people can use, like if you go to trial and you qualify for a state attorney essentially to represent you, right?
Yeah.
That's essentially what you're describing. It's
Yeah.
by using state funds, you mean allowing her to use a state attorney
Yes.
that's paid by the state.
And she could choose either a district attorney if she trusted one.
Yeah.
Or if we have a Republican attorney general, she can go straight to the attorney general's office. And that's what I would suggest she do if we have. Now, Secretary of State Griswold is running for attorney general. It would be dumb to use her to attack herself.
Right.
But I think she's going to be, she'll be indicted before then, and I think she's going to end up going to jail. And so whoever is the actual attorney general, theoretically Republican, they will carry the case out of the AG's office rather than one of the district attorney offices.
Well, that could be a big mess for Colorado if in a couple months the possibility of Weiser being the Democratic nominee if he beats out Bennett, and if Griswold were, and they're both being indicted at the same time.
Yes. Well, and Attorney General Weiser, what I was talking about earlier about the resolution that I called for special auditor, that's a whole nother case where he was very complicit in the cover-up of all of the hush money stuff. So, and Griswold is being sued by the DOJ, I think 2 lawsuits, and then by private people in Colorado, a couple lawsuits, and then also by the DOJ for not turning over the files, the voter records. And then she's also being sued, I think, this one I may not be right about, but I think she's being sued by some of her previous coworkers that accuse her of workplace harassment and stuff like that. There was a big article that came out a month or two ago about all that. And I think they've actually gone into civil liability there. So we'll see. I mean, when you have that much stuff against you, assuming that even half of it's right, it's going to stick. And we'll see. If she's still running for attorney general and not indicted, it's going to be interesting because with every ability I have by the power of the governor, both of those people are going to go to jail. They deserve to be in jail and should have been a long time ago. Too much brokenness and corruption. Griswold broke 3 laws when she brought all the county clerks under her authority. The county clerks are independently voted in, and they run the elections for their county. Secretary of State does not. She brought them all under her, and I confronted her in one of our Smart Act hearings on this, that she did not have the authority to do that, but she did it anyway, which broke laws. Well, you need to be accountable to those laws. As Secretary of State, you don't get to be a king. As Attorney General, you don't get to be a king, and as a governor, you don't get to be a king. And everybody shouts no kings. Well, we're going to have no king party when I'm governor. And we're going to take the actual people out that have been trying to be kings.
Well, I think, and didn't Trump just sign an executive order banning mail-in ballots?
Yes, he did that a few months ago.
Yeah. So how's that going to work here in Colorado? Or is Colorado saying they're just going to throw him the middle finger and do it anyway?
They already have. Attorney General Weiser has sued President Trump 64 times. Talking about using state money? 64 times.
Do we know how much state money he's used suing Trump?
We could get it. I've had a couple of people in the last week ask me that question. We'll find it out. As much as we can uncover that's not covered up.
Right.
But he sued 64 times, and Secretary of State Griswold says she's not going to cooperate with the federal government on voter rolls and a lot of things having to do with elections. She's just not going to participate. Well, okay, then they can come handcuff you, and then your office will participate. It doesn't have to be the Secretary of State. If she keeps, like you say, just keeps giving the middle finger to the government, which Weiser and Griswold both are right now. And part of the reason they're doing this is because they've had such Democrat control for so long. Everybody, House, Senate, Governor's office, courts, appeals courts, 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, the Supreme Court, everybody's Democrat controlled, and they think they can just control everything. You can't tell us what to do. Well, there is still law. There is still federal law, and Trump's not playing by their old playbook. And they can continue to push back, but eventually they're going to go to jail for this stuff because they do not have the authority and the right to do a lot of what they've done.
I mean, these would be. I mean, it's going to be. It's interesting just thinking about between now and November is going to be a wild few months. And there's going to be a lot shifting in the world as a whole.
Yes.
Because, we've spent this whole podcast talking about Colorado, which I'm super passionate about. You're obviously passionate about Colorado. Like, we love Colorado. But obviously, Colorado is part of the United States. And the United States. One of those things where people just make those really obvious statements. I just did that right there. And water is wet. But there's so much even going on globally right now, as the United States is part of the global economy, right?
It's on the planet. Yeah.
It's on the planet.
Right.
And so all this stuff like coming to a head, it seems like some major things have to shift and break really soon. Like, it doesn't feel like the can get kicked much longer. I mean, I love things like macroeconomics. So I'm going to mention a few things like the Fed with interest rates and where we're at with the bond market and the Strait of Hormuz and oil. And like, we've seen oil crash over 50% in the last 4 weeks or 6 weeks or something. Like, it's come down massively. How do all these things on the global macro level, how do they, one, affect Colorado, and two, how do they, how's it all synergistic, I guess?
Well, here's what we're seeing. You talk about the kicking the can down the road. This is the visual that I have in my head right now.
Yeah.
That I've been processing for a couple months. It's like we've kicked the can up against a wall and now we're just beating the can. Can's not moving.
Yeah.
Well, that's what's happening worldwide right now. And I think a lot of these things are very interconnected. So if you take on the macro level on the world stage, a lot of the things that Trump is doing, and I agree with most of them, but not all of them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a Trump guy, but sitting in my comfy lazy boy in Colorado, I say, hey, this is how you should be doing it, Mr. President.
Right.
You know? So, but I do think we've known for decades that Iran is the bad guys, and that they have a religious regime that they're trying to destroy many people, starting with the Israelites, but also they've threatened Saudi Arabia, they've threatened Syria, they've threatened a lot of those nation states around there.
Oh yeah, they shot drones or missiles at
Yes.
Dubai, and
Right. Yeah, I
when
mean,
this whole thing started.
Dubai's got stacks of them, but they're just like, send another one. But that's the problem is Iran should have been taken out a long time ago during actually Jimmy Carter's regime, or presidency, not regime. That regime should have been taken out, but it wasn't. Then Reagan came in and did some things, but he was more focused on Russia and didn't take Iran out, although Iran's working with Russia. So Iran needed to be taken out a long time ago. If you take them off the table, we still have Russia and China to work with. I've been saying for the last couple of years, China is getting closer and closer to just consuming Taiwan. This is why we have sent an entire carrier battle group over to Taiwan, because Taiwan are the good guys. And most people don't know that Colorado has a sister relationship with the country of Taiwan. We're the state in the United States, which irritates me on some level, not that, but the fact that they're working with Utah to try to build some of their super chip manufacturing out of Utah. All the super chips come from Taiwan.
Right.
Now Utah's having why aren't we having those conversations? Because we're too taxed and too regulated and too Marxist. They don't want to step into a state that looks like China.
Right.
And we're working hard to look like China. And so now they're having negotiations with Utah. And our governor's doing nothing about it because what argument does he have? We're going to deregulate? What are we going to deregulate? Nothing.
Yeah.
And so problems there. So back to the subject. So we do have some major geopolitical issues going down, and they are affecting a lot of things that we're doing. Now, us in attacking Iran or bombing Iran or doing something actually has nothing to do with the gas prices in Colorado. A lot of people directly relate that. But here's the thing. You drop a bomb in Iran, and then the next day, $4.50 for gas. It doesn't work that way. These are future markets. These are a lot of other things that are involved with the oil industry. And by the way, we don't get oil from Iran. Yeah. So we're not being affected directly by that. That's the oil markets that are playing with the numbers. The same reason when you see, as we get really close to this election, it's not a presidential election, so it won't have as much effect. But as we get closer to the election, the gas prices will go down. Well,
they should be going down. Oil dropped $60 a barrel.
Yeah, it already should be going down. But when oil drops like that, though, that's where the futures come in, and that's where the market can.
It's all manipulated by the derivatives markets.
Yes.
So, most people don't understand what derivatives markets are, but that's basically the casino between all the banks, the large banking institutions, where they gamble on what the perpetual futures, and they do longs and shorts on leverage, and that's a whole other rabbit hole.
And what they do is they pay money for a certain amount of length of time. That's what the futures are. So you're gambling of whether oil is going to go to this price or not. And so rather than you're betting on that end day, what you do is you put your money down. This is gambling talk, so it's not exactly. Yeah. And I'm not a gambler. I don't gamble. So you put your money down for the next 6 months at this price. You buy that many barrels of oil at that price for 6 months, right? Then when that 6 months gets there, you've bet that it's going to drop to this number, and you've got this number locked in if it drops to that. So you're really not getting the direct oil prices contributing to direct gas prices. It just doesn't do that. But with all of that said, that affects everything. And then when you come into our country and we're fighting so many battles that are mostly social, cultural, and moral battles, and how this is working worldwide, we're in a pretty big fight here. And then when you're looking at, you can look at the UK, France, Germany, any of these countries over there, that they have completely been taken over by the Islamic push across Europe. And we're trying to figure out what we're going to do about that here in America. These are social and cultural issues. And one of the things that I've said as governor is, as long as I'm governor, we will not let Sharia law establish anywhere in the state of Colorado. Sharia law is anti-constitutional. It believes in raping women, killing women if they are raped, abusing children. There was a guy in UK a couple of weeks ago that was arrested for raping a 14-year-old girl. And he says, well, I have the right. He didn't even say he wasn't guilty. He said, I have the right because she's an infidel. That's Sharia law.
Yeah.
We will not let that come into
Should that happen
Colorado.
where?
In the UK.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And we will not let that come into Colorado. And Sharia law has already established itself in many places around the states. Well, these are cultural and social, but also religious, spiritual questions that are affecting all the other things. Okay, you can't just pick out, well, gas prices. All of this stuff is working together. And so, yeah, we're at a very big crossroads right now where we're no longer kicking the can. We're having to decide this election cycle, what are we going to do about some of these things?
Yeah.
We're seeing it in Texas big time. Well, Oklahoma basically just said no Sharia law,
Yeah.
no mosques, nothing.
Gotta love Oklahoma. Man.
Oklahoma, it makes me look liberal. and Texas, but Texas has voted against a lot of these things. They voted against the Sharia law, voted against some of the mosques. But the problem is they let a foothold get strong before they actually started dealing with it.
Yeah.
Minnesota is basically Sharia now, with a kind of a covering of American constitutionality still. But that's where we have to make some major decisions. In Colorado, of course, my heart's here. Colorado's become the most liberal state in the United States, and we're the epicenter of where everybody's looking.
Yeah.
On election night, when they announced that a Christian conservative pastor just got elected as governor in the most liberal state in the United States, think about the shockwaves across the United States.
Yeah.
Because there's too many places that have set up depending on us being more liberal and kind of cutting through everything, and then them coming in behind. And California has always been known as that. But California is just its own thing over there, and it's probably going to sink into the ocean, and so it doesn't matter. But it's that
Love
gets
California though.
I do too. I love California
for the same reason I love Colorado. Really, I mean, so many of the same reasons.
Yeah, me too. I go there, and my wife and I were there a while back, and I kept telling her it is so sad that this place is such a Marxist-controlled state because it's so beautiful. But yeah, they're waiting on us. They've actually vetoed bills and stopped bills that we've passed.
Wow.
And so they're kind of watching us in this Midwestern state and seeing where we're going to go with this. But I love Colorado, like you said, and I'm going to keep fighting for Colorado. I love the independent mentality, just the Midwestern leave us alone.
Yeah.
The hippies. I like all of that kind of stuff. I mean, Colorado wouldn't be Colorado without a bunch of hippies.
Totally.
So that's who we are, right?
We should have done this in the other hippie studio next door. There's another studio here that's like super hippie.
Maybe they want to interview me. I'll just not. Excuse me. But Colorado's worth fighting for. We were driving over to the West Slope beginning of last week, and we had a guy drive us the whole week because we knew we were going stop to stop to stop.
Yeah.
And he said, you know what? We have to keep fighting. We can't let the Marxists have this state.
Yeah.
It's truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I love Colorado. I think Colorado is about to make the greatest comeback of all time.
I do believe that.
Like the greatest comeback of all time because there's nowhere better than Colorado. Some of that discussion really leads me into my next question because I had another person say something to me the other day. One of their objections to you was, and I'll just start this by, you're a pastor. You say you've been a pastor since you're 20. I'm a Christian. I grew up a Christian, still practice my faith. And someone said to me, I wouldn't want to see a pastor as governor because separation of church and state. And I immediately thought, this is going to be a great question when I sit down with Scott.
Yeah. I've never had this question
I've
before.
had some thoughts on this because of where, of like what, because to me, like when you ask that, when I guess I asked that question, the thoughts that come to my mind is define church. You know, it's like define church. Well, is church a ideology? So it's the idea of separation of church and state, the separation of radical ideology, or like what's really trying to be said there? Because from my perspective, the way I grew up as a Christian, it's about moral values and doing the right thing and living your life in a Christ-like way.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone were to say to you what I just said, there's got to be separation of church and state. I wouldn't want a governor who's a pastor. What's your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, I do get this question all the time, right? And because I am a pastor, I can't avoid that. I've been a pastor for 35 years. And unapologetically, I love being a pastor. I had a guy one time say, you know what we are as cultural architects. And I was like, that sounds cool, but I don't know if it's accurate. But I like the term. Yeah. But here's some of the things that people are not processing. First, there is no such thing as separation of church and state. That's, I hear people all the time, well, our Constitution says, no, it's not in the Constitution. It's not in the Declaration. That term was in a letter that Thomas Jefferson sent. Right. And when he sent that letter, he was trying to tell the person that was receiving the letter that the state needs to stay out of the church, not the church stay out of the state. Okay, Thomas Jefferson was very clear that without God and without the church involved in the state, that our republic would not make it. Now we've kicked the church out enough, and we're seeing the republic crumble. Yeah, that's not coincidence. Mm-hmm. It's exactly what our forefathers said. Thomas Jefferson is also one of the true God-fearing, one of our founding fathers, and he said a lot of stuff about this. Now, with that being said, this is where I ask some questions. Sometimes I answer directly. I'll get to that. But I ask some questions. Well, what do you think it means for me to be the pastor of a church? What do you define there that I'm going to be bringing to the table as a governor, right? What am I going to, as a pastor, name one of the teachings of Jesus that would hurt the state of Colorado? Yeah. Not whether you like Jesus or not. That's not my point. But take any of his teachings. Wash the feet of other people. Is that, take care for the widows and orphans? You can just go right down the line of all of his, just the Beatitudes out of Matthew 25. Name one of them that would be bad for the state of Colorado. Well, let me give you some religious understandings that are bad for the state of Colorado. I believe the environmental movement is a religion. It's not based on science. It's not based on truth. It's based on the way people feel. And then we have these statements like we need to get to net zero, carbon zero. Well, what's this thing we live on? Your planet starts dying at around 30% carbon in the, carbon dioxide. When you get down to about 30% of those things, the planet starts dying. Yeah, what do plants breathe? Yes. That's what I always try to tell people. Right. We actually need the carbon. Carbon is the building block of even us humans. Yes, we are major carbon. Yeah. Okay? But they say carbon net zero. Well, here's the thing. You just tripped onto this. We are carbon. Most of these net zero people don't want humans on the planet. They see us as the disease, as the virus. Well, here's the reality. God created this planet. We didn't. Humans didn't. We didn't come from primordial soup. God created this planet, and he put humans on it. That's why he created the planet, is to put us on the planet and to have a relationship with him and serve him. We are the reason why all this exists. We're the reason why all of it exists. Colorado, which is in America, and then America, which is on the globe. I like what you did there. And the globe, which is in the universe. I mean, this is, you get the picture, right? So, but this thing that we need to get rid of all human life, because then the planet can survive. There's no point for the planet if it's not for the humans, right? So that is a religion, in my opinion. We also see, I think this is more of an ideology than a religion, but a lot of the transgender stuff is ideology. Yeah. That was a big example that I brought up with this whole thing, was
with this person thought separation of church and state. I'm like, well, what about this transgenderism and the boys? And I live in Jefferson County where there's 61 boys that have been identified playing in girls sports, right? Like, tell me that's not call that a religion or a church or like
a religion, a movement, an ideology, a church, all those kind of things. And by the way, most Coloradans are not in favor of that.
85%, I think, at least is
yes.
the number that
85% definitely don't want boys and girls sports.
Yeah.
Now, here's the reality. LGB is a sexual preference. That's not a religion. It's not an ideology.
Yep.
The TQ plus is an ideology, and it goes all the way up into the Marxist context of Marxist religion, which is a religion that doesn't have God in it.
Right.
Okay. And all the same things. I was gavelled down in the well in the Capitol many, many times because I dead named somebody or I misgendered somebody or whatever. And I finally broke out one day. I was just done with this stupidity. And I gave them a nice little speech about how just because they create a fake paradigm called gender doesn't mean that I have to go by. There are two sexes, no genders. And I don't have to go by when some guy wants to be called somebody else's name. I don't have to go by that. That's your make-believe land. That's your Disneyland. It's not mine. And I don't have to go by that. And dead naming somebody using their old name, that's their fake. I don't have to go by their fake. And of course, it made a lot of friends that day. But they were coming after me like crazy. But this is the reality. That is something that you have to have faith to believe in. When a dude puts on a dress and says, I'm a girl, nobody in the room believes it.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what room you're in.
Right.
Nobody in the room believes it. Some will fight for it. Some will vote for it. Some will be an activist for it. But nobody believes it. So I'm actually speaking truth. I'm actually speaking against mental illness. And I believe that's an ideological religious context, just like environmentalism is. Well, do those hurt the state? They hurt a lot of people in the state. Name one teaching, again, of Jesus that hurts people.
Yeah.
Name one. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so here's also what I try to tell people. Let's try this for once in Colorado. Let's try to vote somebody in that doesn't lie or cheat or steal. I don't even drink. I don't take money. I don't take bribes. In fact, the lobbyists and stuff don't even offer them to me, which sometimes is hurtful. But they don't even offer them to me. Yeah. I mean, offer, then I can say, no, that kind of thing. But still, give me a chance. But because they know who I am, they're not gonna do that. I've been married 35 years to the same woman. I have good children that serve God and grandchildren that serve God. I'm not gonna be putting money in my pocket so that somebody else gets a benefit. I'm not gonna be taking payoffs from this corporation or this. That's not who I am. Why don't we try that as a governor for once?
Yeah.
Is it bad? Is it bad that I won't cheat, that I won't lie, that I won't steal? Well, here's the problem, is you have major groups around the state of Colorado that really don't want that as a governor. There's your problem.
They need people they can blackmail.
They need. And then on top of that, I've had people say, well, you'll try to turn Colorado into a church and you'll make us all read the Bible and pray and things like that. And I'm like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
I've been a pastor for 35 years. I can't even get my churches that I've pastored to do that. How am I going to get the state to do that?
Yeah.
That's what job security as a pastor is everybody wants, the back of their mind, they want to sin. And so I just think, let's try it in Colorado. Yeah. Let's stop the corruption. Let's stop the lying. Let's stop the abuse. Let's stop the fraud and try something that's honest and integrous and all these other things. But for some people, that's just a roadblock in their mind.
Yeah. Man, so this has been super fun sitting down and talking with you, Scott. Kind of the last question that I had that I want to leave with is, give me, regardless of what happens over the next few months, because I think personally, and I go into this in some of my other podcasts, I'm big into things like macroeconomics, blockchain. I talk a lot about the markets as a whole and how I think there's going to be a lot of turmoil and stuff, that there's going to be a lot of things being shaken up in the next few months. But let's say we get to November, you win the governorship.
Okay, let's say that a lot.
just keep saying it.
Just keep saying it.
Just keep saying it. Let's say this happens. Give me your picture in your mind of we've talked about some of the things you're going to do, some of the ways, like what you're going to do on day one, what you're going to focus on the first year. Give me a year to two after you've become governor. What does Colorado look like? Like, paint the picture for me of what the other side of this transition looks like.
Yeah, we're really going to put just so much energy and time, probably 80-90% of what we're doing the first year, just trying to get out the corruption. And really what will happen is you break open something and 5 other things will pop up. And so I've had people out of the state and actually out of the federal government that have asked me if they can be part of our investigated auditing teams and all that kind of stuff. I'm very excited about jumping into that, but I know that's going to be grabbing a tiger by the tail.
Yeah.
We know that. And then we're going to have all these companies and groups suing us. We're going to have the Democrat Party suing us. We're going to have the Venezuelan cartel immediately try to erupt and burn down Denver, all that kind of stuff. And so that first year is going to be chaos, complete chaos. I know that. I know going into it. I'm not worried about it. I'm not scared about it. I'm a pretty strong person, and I can lead that. I can lead that charge across all of our agencies in the state. I'm hoping by the end of probably the second year that we've got most of that out and we've already fixed a lot of the problems, but rolling backwards because of that we've already fixed a lot of the problems in things like our Medicaid and our budget and then obviously shoring up the Constitution, Second Amendment, and Tabor. We really have to come back around and fix Tabor. The Democrats have just gutted it for the most part. 71% of all tax dollars go around Tabor right now. Number one revenue generating process in the state of Colorado right now is fees.
Yeah.
Those are taxes that have been hidden in the name fee. So we're going to have to fix a lot of that stuff, get Tabor shored back up, probably do some ballot initiatives. And I am going to be running a lot or encouraging the people and encouraging the House. And then we can run some out of the governor's office too, just ballot initiatives, fixing some major issues in the state that need to be voted on by the people rather than the legislature, which, by the way, we're 150 years old this year. That first 50 years of our existence, most of the legislation came from the people, which is the way it's designed.
Yeah.
It's not designed to come from bureaucrats and elected officials. So the first year, 2 years, that's all we're going to be doing is cleaning up, digging up corruption, stopping the pedophile ring, stopping trafficking. And that's obviously a big haul, right?
It's a large task.
Yes. By that second year, I'm hoping that we've got a lot of that handled. We're still going to be doing things. You're still going to be uncovering, but hopefully minor stuff by that time. And all the people that need to be in jail, most of them are in jail by that time. And we can actually start looking at our state. It's not like a clean slate, but it kind of is, because you've taken all the bad actors out, you've taken all the corruption, you've taken all the stuff out, and now you're just saying, okay, this is the state of Colorado. Our budget, let's bring it back billions of dollars because we got all the other junk out. And let's actually look at a nice streamlined budget. Let's look at a very healthy state. I believe the state of Colorado can be the wealthiest state in the entire United States.
I agree.
But we have to stop all of the things that are hindering that right now. If we just let the people of Colorado be free and just go by the Constitution, it's amazing how many businesses would start flooding back into Colorado.
Yeah.
Major businesses, mom and pop shops again. Restaurants, there are major restaurant chains right now that won't come into Colorado.
Yeah.
We've courted them, and they won't come into Colorado because it's too taxed and too regulated. And then our governor says, we are going to tax your tips and overtime and things like that, you know. So that's where it'll start happening, is we'll start seeing that swing. And I think we'll see that within that second year. If we can really root out a lot of this stuff first year, I think we'll see that ball start rolling in the second year, which is we're starting to see businesses sit down at the table again and say, what can we do? And I'm talking even major corporations.
Yeah.
You know, they always talk about how major corporations are bad. Well, major corporations employ many people.
Yeah.
And at good wages most of the time, very good wages. And so we need to do that. And I think that's what will be happening. I think our schools will start getting cleaned up. Again, I do have an education plan that rewrites the whole story. But you put all that stuff together, and this is just kind of a mental picture, is the air will seem like Colorado air again. You'll be breathing very clean, crisp air.
Yeah.
Whereas before, it's just so muddied and so broken and so corrupt. It just feels like Colorado has this darkness over it that we need to break through. And so I think that's where we'll get to.
Yeah. And you mentioned that darkness, like it takes one speck of light to illuminate an entire room of darkness, right? Like it once that process begins, I think it can be a very fast thing too. And I think it's always darkest before the dawn. Like, we have the opportunity here in Colorado this year to really bring about the change that's going to make Colorado the place that we truly love.
Yeah.
Like, and people are fed up of this system that has been continuing to just beat down the ability for Coloradans to enjoy the state and to live here freely.
Right.
And so yeah, man, I couldn't be more enthusiastic and optimistic about the future. Like, we talk about all these big problems that are going on that need to be solved, and it is a big haul. But the thing is, no matter how big your problems are, God is bigger.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether you're a Christian or spiritual or whatever your beliefs are around the divine, I think that most people can agree that there's some type of benefactor force that is looking out for us and is trying to make this world a better place. And I think we're right at the precipice of that, where everything is about to shift and the future looks really, really bright. And so I couldn't be more excited, man. And it was a pleasure sitting down and talking to you. This was fun. I love talking policy, and I love talking what your plans are and just life and spirituality and all the things. So thanks for coming on my show. Any final thoughts?
I've enjoyed it. And I'm very optimistic too. I believe that big times, like you're saying, these are huge mountains to climb. I'm not arguing that. These are. But I do believe that God creates people and calls people for this. And even if you don't look at it that way, we understand that good, strong leadership is what makes the difference. And I'm that person. I've been that person for years and years. That I'm a reformer. I know God has created me that way, and that I'm ready to take on the big mountains. It doesn't matter what that looks like. And I've learned a lot on your show, so it's been good.
Awesome. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate you coming. Scott Bottoms, everyone.
Yeah. ScottBottoms.com.
Shout out ScottBottoms.com. Shout out Scott Bottoms.
Hashtag Scott Bottoms.
That's great. Sweet.
I'm Will Carr, and I'm here to fire you up.